I've discussed it like a million times already. Like this season has been sort of clouded by so much change and so much transformation, so much transition, whether it be from the, you know, on the spiritual aspect, on the career aspect, on the family aspect, on the personal aspect. It's just been so much chaos.
There's so much happening. Yeah.
It's like, you know, even me, like I've told you a few times already, it's like, I don't feel like myself this season. Like, I don't feel like I'm bringing anything to the table because I can barely bring anything to the table in my own life, like, because everything is so cuckoo bananas. So that's why I was like, okay, I need to sort of let the dust settle, allow the dust to settle. I have enough episodes to bring us to Christmas, which is always in my mind when I thought we would take a small break anyway. But since we have all these episodes still ready to come out, and it would be 8 episodes. So last season was, I think we stopped at 14. So this season we can actually do another 8. So we can go a little beyond, like 2 episodes beyond last season and do 16 episodes this season. Okay. So with that break, I think I should be, God willing, divine willing, that everything should be settled, and no more like gigantic shifts happening between now and January, because I don't think I have the mental capacity to even withstand it at this point. It's just been too much. Like even yesterday when it came to work, like when was it that I told you like I was feeling very anxious? On Thursday.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I would look at Karam and I'd be like, I don't know if I can do this job. Like, I don't know what the hell I need to do. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's so scary because it's a position that I really love. And it's a job that I really love. And it's income that is, it's like a miracle, which is making me value it so much, which is also igniting my like perfectionist side and like me wanting to make sure that it's going and it's happening the right way, which there isn't a right way in this job, which is even more aggravating, because it's still very much experimental and we're building it as we go, which is much like life. We're building it as we go. Yeah. So that's why I felt like this episode should be the mid-season finale. Like we take a break for the holidays, sort of let the dust settle. I'll come to the States, come back from the States, and then like we can get back into the groove of things. Okay. Yeah. Plus the chaos with the ticket, that was not fun.
No, not at all. But you're still coming, so that's good.
Yes. Oh, I have all the flight information. So if you want me to send it to you, I will. Just for whatever. If you want to like track and make sure that the plane didn't end up in the Bermuda Triangle or something. So today's episode, we have a guest. So we tried a sort of like a pre-version or like a practice version of having Karys on. And so this is sort of like, okay, let's
this
actually
is number 2.
Yeah, let's take 2 in a way, because we, as soon as that episode ended, as soon as that practice episode ended, Karys, I immediately received a text message from her saying, all right, I'm not done sharing what I want to share. I have more I want to say. And so let's do a part 2. And then I realized that Allison, you shared with me something that was not in the text messages that Karys said.
That we talk too much. That she wasn't able to talk because we talk too much.
So,
right.
So, we wanted to make sure that this time around, the space that was being held was going to allow you to sort of share your perspectives on, again, this season is all about transformation. It's all about going through change. It's all about surrendering to change, embracing the discomfort of change. And we want to make sure that you share this journey with us on the off chance that there are people your age listening to this podcast, that there are people who could resonate with the journey that you are currently on. A quick disclaimer, we are not mentioning names of anyone. We're keeping that and respecting everybody's privacy.
I didn't mean to last time. I didn't mean to.
No. And it's perfectly fine. It's, I had to learn this sort of stuff for podcasting as well, and like what to say and what not to say on the air. So you're perfectly fine when it comes to that. I just wanted to put that sort of out there. And at this point, I'm going to sort of hand it over to you and your mom, Allison, the co-host and co-creator of the Vistara Hour, and sort of like let you two take the lead since you two are together. And I'll sort of like jump in whenever I feel like I have a question I want to ask you, or sort of like want to dig in deeper into whatever you're saying. Because like the last episode, you ended with one of the biggest like statements, and I'm going to make sure that that's in the highlight. That was a really beautiful and poignant statement that you said at the end of the first run. So I want to make sure to allow you the space to sort of like share more of that, share more of your like
Can't remember what you said.
Inner teen wisdom. I don't remember it like word for word either, but I remember it was like, it was good. Like both Allison and I were like, what?
Yeah, all this wisdom that came out of her.
So the floor and the mic is yours. Go for it.
Well, first of all, I think our viewers will notice that the people that are on YouTube will notice we're in a different location today.
Mm-hmm.
We are in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we are right on the ocean, and it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I got to watch the sunrise this morning.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, and what I love about being here, we were here 2 years ago. I'm just like automatically waking up for the sunrise. And 2 years ago, I was in such a place and I felt so heavy and so like I was in the middle of this transition. Do I stay in the situation or do I leave the situation that I'm in? And I knew I had to leave. I just didn't know how to. And this whole trip 2 years ago was magical for me because it came at a time that I really needed it the most. And I really didn't leave with the clarity of leave this trip 2 years ago with the clarity of how am I going to leave the situation, but I left so much more balanced and happy. And I noticed even 2 years ago, I was waking up to the sunset. But the difference between 2 years ago and this time, 2 years ago, I didn't feel the magnificence of that sunset. I was outside watching the sunset and how beautiful it is. And this morning, because I just feel like so much weight has been taken off of me, and it really has been, literally, figuratively, all of it, that I just felt so much lighter. And I sent you a picture this morning before the sun was rising, but as like right before it came to like the horizon, there was this bright light that went across the ocean. And I just felt like creation was like extending its arm towards me this morning. And I was like, wow, the sun isn't even up. And here's this bright white light. And it made me feel so happy, like so happy inside. And that's the difference between 2 years ago versus today. Like the joy and the happiness I felt watching the sunrise. And it was so magnificent that I felt like I had to stand for it. When you're in the presence of something so wonderful and you can't even sit, you have to stand. It was like my body just stood up. And I was just like, wow, this is so incredibly beautiful. And that was my experience this morning. So it was amazing actually to see and to compare. It's because we're talking about transformation. And the huge transformation that I've gone on over the past 2 years, and Karys, the last time we were here, she was going through, like, it was the beginning of her transformation. And it was the week after all heck broke loose for her at school. And we came here, and I just remember feeling so bad for her while we were here as well. And I think I mentioned in the last episode that we had with her, like, her and I were going through something very similar at the same time. Very similar, but she was going through it at school, and I was going through it, you know, with another situation. But I just remember feeling so bad for her. And the whole thing was just so sad. And I want to ask you, you look like you're going to bite my head off. It was like the stare of death, wasn't it? It was like, you're talking too much, Mom. What's different for you 2 years ago versus now? I don't know. How does it feel? Do you remember that time and how you felt coming here 2 years ago?
I guess I'm more happy.
Talk.
I'm more happy.
Okay.
I have friends and I'm able to share my experience here with them.
Okay. And you know, when you look back at where you were 2 years ago, like when you look back at that version of yourself, right? If you were standing sort of like in front of that Karys, what would you like, you know, even though this sounds like a question that I would sort of like keep until the end, but I sort of want to start here, and that's perfectly fine. But like, what would you say to that Karys? Like, if you today were able to, you know, peel open the multiverse and sort of like stick your head in, and look at Karys from 2 years ago in, you know, in that environment that you're currently in right now, which you said 2 years ago, this is where you were. What would be something that you would share with her? What would be like a sentence, or like, what would you share with that previous version of yourself?
That everything's gonna be okay and you're gonna be able to get through it.
Okay.
Did
And
you feel like you were going to be able to get through it 2 years ago?
And that was iffy.
Okay, so that's actually that's exactly what I was going to ask. Was that, were you in that moment, were you feeling like whatever your life was going through, it, like whatever path you were on, this transitional path, this transformative path that you were on, did you feel like you may not have, like, that it was too hard to make it through, or was, or that you were not going to be able to make it through?
That's hard.
That's
a
what?
hard- That's a hard question to answer because I genuinely don't know if I would have been able to deal with it or not.
I kind of feel like 2 years ago, you know, without going into the specifics of the story, like, there was a lot of crap that happened at school, and all of her friends turned their backs on her. And it was a really difficult thing that she walked through. And I kept her out of school for a week. I'd spoken to the administration.
2 weeks.
And while the first week was the week before Thanksgiving, the second week would be like this week of Thanksgiving. So I kept her out for the week before Thanksgiving, and administration was like, you know, Karys really needs to take care of her mental health. And I was like really thankful that they were so understanding, because they saw the place that she was in. And they said, we will help her do whatever we need to do to help her make her schoolwork up when she comes back. But you all need to do what you all need to do for her mental health. And if it is keeping her out of school right now, then you keep her out of school right now. And that's what we did. And then the second week of that mental health break that was so needed for her, we were actually here
Okay.
And I kind of feel like still at that point of time for her 2 years ago, she was still kind of in shock that everything
Well, of
had
course.
happened.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And this is sort of why I went back and I asked the question, like, did you think you were not going to be able to make it? Like, what aspects of it? And your response, Karys, was, like, I actually don't know. But then you said, I actually don't know if I would have been able to handle it, right? To keep going on that path. What aspects of what was going on were causing you to perhaps doubt or feel the way that you were feeling? Was it just the betrayal? What was like the external stuff, sort of the external story? Your mom sort of just like put a little bit of the pieces together. What we're curious on, like on the show, is more of the internal journey, right? So what were you going through internally? Like, what were the thought processes that were happening within you during that time? What kind of questions were you asking yourself internally that you may not have like vocalized out loud? But whenever we go through very difficult periods, sometimes there are thoughts that go through our heads, our mind. We question things, we doubt things. So I sort of want to like throw in the hook and try to like reel that in, because I am very curious to see like what your thought process was like. Like, what were some of the things that you were thinking about during that time?
I was confused because I went to such a small school and
Mhm.
no girls, no boys dated anybody from outside of school. They
Okay.
all dated everybody's exes.
Okay. Sounds like a
And
soap opera.
Yeah, by the
was,
time you left, there were what 88 kids in the school. I mean, in the 8th grade, something like that. It was a small school.
yeah, I was confused. I didn't know why this was being blown out of proportion, because one girl that I was friends with was dating my ex, and she did the same thing to me, but I didn't blow it out of proportion. I was mad, but I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna drag you in the bathroom and beat you up for it. Or I didn't say I'm gonna lie and make you look like you're in the wrong, because at the end of the day, people date, and no matter what, nobody should have a say over whether you date that person.
Okay. Were there any feelings of like self-negative feelings? Like, was everything that was happening externally causing you to sort of like doubt yourself? Because you said you were confused. So were there self-doubt? Was there like self-doubt? Was there, and I don't want to make it too uncomfortable, but was there like self-shame? Was there self-guilt? Was there to an extreme? Was there self like dislike or self-hatred? Like, were those things being sort of triggered within you because of everything that was going on outside, all this change and all the shifts and all these emotions and teenage hormones?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Would you mind sort of like expanding on that a little bit?
It's like, it's weird because it wasn't like, oh, I hate myself. It was more like there was trauma building up in me, and I became more mad at everybody.
Okay.
And I fell into like a depressive state.
Okay.
And I remember one day we went go-karting, whatever. I don't even know how to say it. But we got back, and
was that when we were here visiting?
Yes. And I got in trouble with my mom at the place, and then I get back and I get a lecture from my mom, and then I get a lecture from my dad, and then I get a lecture from Sydney, and then I went on TikTok, and their TikToks came up of them posting each other after they said that they weren't going to be friends because they're all B words and all of this stuff. And I was just like, you guys are so fake towards each other, but you're over here posting each other, talking about how y'all are the trio, the best friends, everything.
Okay.
So
So
I
there was a
was
lot
not-
of, so a lot of that, like a lot of that trauma was sort of transforming into external rage, right? You were just like angry at
Yeah.
everything and everyone. And
I mean, I have never yelled at my brother to the point where I've made him like bawl his eyes out and hyperventilate in my arms before. I did that to him. I still deal with it now, but I remember he dropped a perfume that my mom got me for Christmas.
I
And
remember
loved-
that story.
And when he did, I didn't realize that I didn't specify where it was. And he doesn't know the difference between deodorant and perfume. And I screamed at the top of the stairs, at the top of my lungs, and I screamed at him. He was hyperventilating. And he was genuinely scared. And I understand that because my dad will yell at me and I get scared. When somebody yells at you like that, it's very scared. It's very scary. And I went in the bathroom, and when that was all done, I cried, and mom actually held me in the bath, like would not let me leave the bathroom until I told her what was actually wrong.
Yeah. So here's a tough question for you. Have you gotten to a place, or do you feel like you're getting to a place now where you can look back at that angry Karys and forgive her for being this angry?
I'm not even at that place where I'm still angry. I'm still very angry.
Okay. I just got chills, but like, okay. Yeah. No, that's a very honest answer.
It's also like I'm so angry, but if somebody hugs me and just holds me there, I'm gonna cry.
Right. And why do you think that is? What is it that you think that now, because there's all that anger, that when someone is hugging you, or someone is acknowledging, because a hug, what is a hug? A hug is acknowledging someone's presence, right? You're like acknowledging someone's presence, you're embracing them. Maybe there's a feeling of safety, of genuine affection, of love. It doesn't have to be like romantic love. It could just be like family love or friendship love. Or why do you think that a hug now is a trigger to allow you to release that sadness?
Because I don't know. I just feel it was like whenever me and my best friend would get into an argument at school, and we wouldn't be on speaking terms for a week, she would randomly come up to me and tell me that everything's okay and hug me. Mind you, she's short. She was about 5 foot. She's short, and I'm 5'9", 5'8", 5'9". You can imagine that, but she still, at how short she was, still was able to comfort me, even though I prefer somebody that's taller than me give me a hug.
Fair enough.
So basically you're saying it's comforting.
It is.
And makes you feel safe when somebody hugs you.
Because I don't know, it's weird. It's very weird. I don't take hugs from my family like a comfort way. I'll just take it as, oh, they missed me, so I'm gonna hug them back. From friends, I take it as a very comfort thing, and I think that's something that I realize that I do.
Okay.
Because my mom could hug me when I'm crying, and I just hold her like this. Like I hold her, like I'm like this. And she could have her arms wrapped around me. She could be like rubbing my head, and I'm just like this.
Okay.
Or whenever it's like I cross my arms whenever my dad tries to hug me when I'm crying. It's just, I don't take hugs from my family when I'm upset. I
don't want to feel like I'm prying, but I feel like this is very interesting. We're heading into very interesting territory, because all these things that we're talking about, I know that by the time we reach the end of the episode, because this is the kind of magic that happens on this show, is it'll find its way back to exactly what we were, what we always, the theme of the episode. It always does this. But do you feel that because of all this transformation that's happening, because there's internal transformation given your age and in the timeline and the time frame that you are in your life, there's a lot of transformation happening. There are many aspects of yourself that you are trying to sort of like define who you are and figure out who Karys is outside of your parents and your sister and your brothers, and like, who is Karys on her own? There is this aspect of like, okay, so who am I outside of this family tree? All the while, there's a lot of change happening inside your home. There's a lot of change happening with your friends and at school. There's a lot of change happening around the world. If you're on social media, you're probably seeing a lot of chaos every single day. So is there an aspect of you that feels like the fact that you don't necessarily like accept or hug your family in the same way that you do, let's say, your friends or someone that's external to your family? Because I know you hug me, and I'm not like blood family, but I consider you family. So what is it? Is there a feeling of like, do you not feel that same safety or stability or comfort that you can perhaps feel with your current friends? Because mind you, if I also take you back 2 years ago, it was your friends that also betrayed you, right? Yeah. So you have been hurt by people who are not family members. You may have been also hurt because, again, I don't know everything that's happening in your home. But like, you may have felt hurt by family members. So where does it change? Where is that difference of you feel more comfortable to be, let's say, more vulnerable with people who are not, let's say, like your mom or your sister or your brother or your dad? What is it about the other person that allows you to feel that vulnerability?
I feel it's different. I don't know why I feel that way.
Okay.
I don't know why, but if I'm scared, I'm going to run to my family. So like, I have like a fear of the woods. I cannot sleep in a room alone if I'm dead in the woods.
Okay.
Like I can't. And so like, if my family's there and there's no room in a bed for me, I'm literally going to get a blanket and a pillow and sleep on a hardwood floor in the same room as my parents.
Okay.
Like it's more anxiety. And
so basically what I hear you saying is that you're not looking for that comfort from us because you already have it.
Yes.
But you are looking to receive it from your friends because you feel like that is what's been lacking.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's also very interesting because it's a very different perspective, and it's a very fascinating perspective, because it's like someone saying, I already know that I have love from this person, so I don't necessarily need anything from them because I already know I have what I'm
looking for it from us.
I'm not looking for it from them. But then this other side of my life, this is where I'm seeking that love and that affection, that safe space, that sacred space. It's very interesting because I'm a hugger. Like I'm a very like affectionate, loving, and I show it, and it's like, I'm very much that. Whether it be from my family or from my friends or I am someone who likes to express and likes to show love.
Your entire family is like that.
Yeah.
Especially your dad.
We are. Ooh, that's very interesting. I thought you were going to say my mom. That's very interesting that you would say my dad.
I just think well, because ever since I was young, I'm always afraid. I'm afraid of fathers. I'm very afraid of them because they're very, very intimidating. And I think I've been around Tony since I was so young that he doesn't faze me. Like, it doesn't faze me that he can be scary.
Ooh.
So, like, I can't sit with somebody's dad and talk to them. But if your dad is in the other room sitting, helping your mom do something for her business, I can go and sit there and just watch TV with him. Or I remember they moved back here and I didn't see them for like maybe 5 months. And my mom was like, I'm gonna take you to surprise them. And I remember I walked through the door and your dad was doing dishes and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, "Shut up." He literally said, "Shut up." And literally stood there like he couldn't move.
Like he was shocked.
And it was like,
because you went from this tiny little girl to this grown woman.
yeah. And it was like he almost didn't recognize me, but he knew who I was. And he gave me the biggest hug.
I think it's because you feel his heart. You feel the love coming from his heart.
There's just something. There's something in your dad that just doesn't.
Well, I agree. I mean, Dad is a very gentle person. And he's someone who's not very outspoken. He's not someone who speaks up and who expresses things loudly. Whereas my mom is very much the polar opposite of that. And I feel like I have moments where I can tap into my dad's like gentle nature, but I am very much a lot of Karen. I'm a lot of my mom. I'm a lot of
you're a good mix.
Yeah. I think I used to be a lot more soft-spoken and calmer, or not necessarily calmer, but just like quieter earlier in my life. But then when I started doing therapy, the therapist literally had to crack me open. And then once that happened, I was just like, oh, that's what it feels like to speak? Shut up. Like, and so it just like, I became this very overly expressive. I have no filter. I speak my mind. What is in my heart is coming out of my mouth. And it sort of became that, because I feel like a lot of aspects of my growing up, a lot of the challenges that I was facing the majority of the time, and this is sometimes still a trigger to this day, is that I don't feel like I'm being heard or that I'm not being seen for who I am. And so this is why I've sort of been like trying to like nitpick at your journey, because I've been through bullying. I've been through a path where there was a lot of self-hate. There was a lot of self-shame. When 9/11 happened, going backwards, I feel like that may have been way before her time. Yes. Yes. Right? Yes. I'm trying to figure out the date in my mind.
That was when my sister and brother were young.
Yeah.
Yeah. 9/11 happened. Karys was born in 2008.
2008. Yeah. So like when 9/11 happened, the only people that knew about me being Middle Eastern were my friends. And they were also the people that ended up jumping me after school and beating the crap out of me for being Middle Eastern at the time. And so that sense of like, but you're supposed to be my friends. You're not supposed to do this to me. This is something that I feel like you may have somehow felt within your journey. Like, what is a friend if a friend is going to, turn around and stab me in the back? What does the word friend mean? And I think that's sort of the journey that you're on now, which is why when a friend comes up to you and gives you that hug, it's sort of like an affirmation to you of like, oh, so this is what a friend is. Is that like, can you take everything that I said? And if if it does not resonate, tell me, be like, nope, that's not it at all. But like, that's sort of where I'm trying to find that like common place.
Yeah. Because that happened. My dad was very confused one time because when I went into high school and I started dating my boyfriend, I couldn't, like, I had to be with him all the time. I had to, like, I was always touching him. I was always hugging him. I was always playing with his hair. I was always doing something. My dad sat me down and he was like, what happened? Because I used to hate it. My dad could do this to me and I could scream. I could let out the worst scream. I hated it. I could not be touched. I couldn't.
Okay. So let's take that moment. Let's go to that place because this is a beautiful transformative moment. What happened between you not being a very touchy-feely person to, oh, this is different and I want to play with his hair? Like what was that change? Like,
I don't know, because I dated this one boy and he was very touchy, and I remember I walked to my mom and I cried and I was like, I can't handle this. So we took a test and it was like words of affirmation and
Love
receiving,
language,
like,
okay.
receiving
acts
things.
of service.
And I remember it was like there was a question and it was naming all of things, and I never once said physical touch, never once said anything that related to touch. And she started laughing and I was like, what's funny? She's like, you really hate touch. I actually ended things with that boy because
he wanted to hold your hand.
Yeah, he wanted to hold my hand and I freaked out.
Hold up. You broke up with someone over him wanting to hold your hand?
But it was like,
Yes,
and I'm like that now. So like at school, my boyfriend pulls his hand away, I'll like give him the side eye and be like, why are you pulling away from me? Like,
okay, so then I know your answer was like, I honestly don't know, but I sort of want you to really try to, like, even if you give yourself a moment, like even if you give yourself a second, like try to, I don't want to say self-analyze, but like try to understand what caused the change. What is it about like this particular boy or this particular moment in your life that has gotten you to a place of like, oh, wait a minute, like maybe being closer to someone physically with boundaries, says the Godfather. Being closer to someone physically is something that you're almost open to right now. Like, what is it that brought you to this place?
I think because whenever I would spend the night with them,
With who?
with the girls,
okay,
they would always like want to cuddle.
The girls did.
They would put their legs, like when you'd be laying down, they would put their legs on my legs.
Okay.
Or like going to sleep, I would like fall asleep with their arms around me. So I think when I lost that, I was looking for it again.
Okay.
So something just came up for me. What I've noticed through my transformation, Karys, is when something like that happens, when something traumatizing like that happens, what happened for me is that it broke me in such a way. I became softer in some areas and harder in some other areas.
You did. Because you used to never let dad hug you. Like it would annoy you, be like, Dennis, I don't want to be touched. And like literally we were leaving and dad was like, what are you doing? She was like, Dennis, just give me a hug. Just give me a hug. And they were hugging, and I've never really seen that before with my parents.
Okay.
And like my dad has become more helpful when she's not around. We were
Okay.
going to pick it up, and he made me clean the house. He made sure everything was perfect. And he was like it was like watching him, it was like there was a little kid inside of him, like just jumping and like tapping their feet. Like he was excited to see mom.
There's transformation going on with everybody right now.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like it. So do you think that because I mean, whether we like it or not, you know, what we see in our own home affects us heavily. So do you think that there were aspects of you, Karys, that was just reacting or sort of seeing what was in front of you and going, okay, maybe this is the norm. And so there was a part of you that was echoing back what you were seeing within the house. And now that things are also again transforming one more time, there are aspects of you that are again, especially because of what happened to you as well. Like, I don't want to take that away. The betrayal from your friends was also a breaking point for you. So do you think all of that together is also allowing you as well to become a lot more open to, again, being a lot more like being softer, being touched, you know, holding someone's hand? Or is that something that you don't think that it's what you're seeing, but more or less what's coming from within?
I don't know.
I am putting you through it today.
Think about it. Yeah, you can just think about it. You can, so I want to know, what was it within you that kept you going through those times?
Oh, that's a good question too.
What exactly was it that, because from my perspective, you were so strong during that time, and you felt like there was something deep within you that was so grounded and so strong, even though you were angry and there were times that you were raging and you made your brother cry. But there was still something, there still is like this inner strength within you that just keeps going. What was that? Tell our listeners
I saw
about that.
A quote or something. Because when everything happened, I was literally on my phone 24/7. Because that was literally the only thing I could do besides, you know, going to the gym. I think the gym helped out a lot. I think
I feel like the gym helped you too.
Helped a lot, and I think when I lost that, I also fell into it, because when everything happened, it was around this time. Couple months go by. I lost the gym.
Okay.
So everything happened.
So there were a lot of foundational things that you were sort of like, or anchors, let's call them anchors, that you were like, okay, friends are gone, but at least I have this. Oh crap, now this is gone, at least I have my phone, you know, like, or whatever. Like, there was this like trying to reach some stability from something, right?
And then after I lost that, I got told that my great grandma was dying, but she would be okay. And then I got told on a Saturday that she was dying, but she was going to be okay because it's like stage 1. Then I got told on a Monday that she has bone cancer, and it looks like it's going to become a brain cancer, and it's but she's still going to be okay. It's not 100%. I got told on a Thursday that she passed away due to brain cancer, and it was it went quick. Once everybody figured it out with her, it went quick. And she didn't tell anybody that she was dealing with cancer until her last month or a couple weeks. And I was never really close to her, but there was something about her that just broke me inside, because I cried. You can ask my mom, I cried for hours. Like, she would calm me down. She would make me breathe. and then I would go upstairs and bawl my eyes out.
Okay.
It was just so much loss, within.
Yeah,
within
that's
a
what I
year
mean.
of
That's
her.
exactly what I'm thinking. It's just like, it's a lot of
Just so much
loss.
loss.
It's a
But
lot of
what-
like the foundation. That's why I use the word foundation, because it felt like it's the foundation that she was walking on was just like falling through. Like it was just,
Like I was walking on glass,
yeah,
broken glass, and I didn't expect it all.
right,
Like
right.
1 minute, I lost my friends, literally had like 2 people. Then I still had the gym, went there, lost that, and then I lost my great grandma.
Right.
And I think it was definitely like walking on needles in class, and anything sharp I was walking on. Like I remember I became friends with this one girl again, and we had a sleepover after going to Hollow Scream, and she sat down with me and she was like, Karys, I could tell there was something wrong with you towards the end of the year. I literally went to school with my hood on. I lied to administration and got after school detention for something small. I was.
So do you think then that strength that your mom was talking about was perhaps maybe less strength and more just a numbing of everything? Like, do you feel like it was just you were numb and just like moving through whatever you needed to move through more so than there was like a motivation to get through it? Does that make sense?
No, there was something within her as her
Okay.
mom. I could feel it.
There
There was this inner strength within her that kept her going.
I saw on TikTok, it was like an old video, and there was an audio to it, and it was like something about killing yourself is permanent. You can find a better solution. It's a very like, it's a quote that I know if I said it properly, Alan would be like, oh my God, I've heard that one before. But it was like killing yourself is a solution, is not a solution to non-permanent things.
To a temporary
situation.
Okay. Yes. So as someone who has been down that path more than once before I started therapy, were there moments, and you don't have to answer to this if you don't feel comfortable, but were there moments where you thought like, I would be better off not here?
Yeah.
Okay. So as someone who's been down that path, I want to say high five to you for knowing, for not taking that road. The thoughts are just as damaging, I think. Because again, this goes back to why I was asking earlier, was there any negative self-thought? Because that's where all of that comes from, right? It comes from a place of like, I don't feel like I am worthy enough. And that's the base of it, is that I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to have friends. I don't feel I'm worthy enough to be loved. I don't feel I'm worthy enough to be alive. And that's sort of where, in my experience, that's where it comes from. When we don't value ourselves and we don't believe in our own self-worth, the idea of checking out, to phrase it in a sort of a slightly more sugar-coaty way, but to take that decision, in many ways, that's where I feel it comes from. Because that's where you feel exhausted. Like that's where that exhaustion comes from, that I don't think I can do this anymore. It comes from a base of like a lack of self-worth. And I feel like a lot of people, especially with everything that's going on around the world today, social media alone, there is this constant feeling that you're somehow not good enough. You're somehow not worthy enough. You're somehow behind all these other people, right? I don't know if I would have survived being a teenager in 2023. Like, and I said that to Allison a bunch of times when you were going through it. I was like, I don't know if I could have survived, because I thought I had it tough when I was getting bullied in school. But what that group of people did to you, I mean, it's cruel. Like I mean, I don't know if I want to use that extreme word, but it is borderline evil. Like it's just.
It was terrible. It
terrible.
was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I'll go back and I'll ask you that question. Were there feelings or were there thoughts that came through your mind where you felt like you were not worthy enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel differently now, or are there still sort of like remnants of that floating about within you?
I have my days.
Okay.
That's fair, because we all have our days.
That was a very democratic answer. That was such a democratic answer. I'll have my days.
Because I do. I mean,
we all do.
You have days in your moments. You know, a few days ago, I remember I hardly get on my Facebook business page. And I got on my Facebook business page the other day, and I blocked everybody from my whole bullying episode on Facebook. But I can't do that on my business page.
Right.
And I got on, and I guess like curiosity just got the best of me. And so there was somebody that I had blocked that had posted something, and it just brought back, like on my news feed on my business page for Facebook, it just brought back all of these feelings and these thoughts and I was just like, ugh, goodness. But the one thing that I want to ask you, Karys, do you notice that the bad days like that are less and less?
Yeah.
Do you notice that the bad days are more like turning into moments instead of full days?
Yeah, again, that depends on the day. That depends on if I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to go to school today. Because I'll have my moments at school where I can be like, my friends would be like, oh my God, Karys is the sweetest person. Like my aunt walks around her neighborhood and says, this is my niece. She's the sweetest person ever. But at school, if you press my button, I'm gonna say something to you. Like if you make me mad, I cussed a girl out at school because she really pushed me to my limit.
Okay.
Like I have my days where they're horrible all day, every day.
Okay.
Not every day. They're horrible.
But you notice that since all of this happened 2 years ago, these days are getting fewer and far in between.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you notice that you are starting to feel better about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. As we are inching closer and closer to the end of the episode. Do you feel like you are being 100% authentically yourself? Or do you feel like you are constantly playing by the rules of where you are? Like, so if you're in school, you're a version of Karys. When you're at home, you're a different version of Karys. When you're with your aunt, you're the sweet version of Karys. Or do you feel like, well, here's a better version of that question. When do you feel like you are 100% authentically yourself? The good, the bad, the ugly. Like, When do you feel like you are completely you? Or do you even have moments when you're feeling that?
When I'm comfortable.
Huh?
When I'm comfortable, like when I'm comfortable with somebody, I will be I'm not myself around my family. If they go to school and they see how I act, they're gonna be like, I am very disappointed in you. Your phone is going in my room and you are going to be grounded for 2 weeks. Like they would be
Okay, we
disgusted
are spilling tea on this episode.
because they don't. I'm more quiet at school. I don't talk to people unless they talk to me. But when I'm around people that I enjoy being around, it can become I get very crazy and a very energetic person.
Okay.
And I talk different.
Do you feel like you were being yourself the other night when you made me laugh? When you were showing me that you could tap your foot on one side as fast.
I can't tap my foot on my left side really fast, but I can do it on my right. And I have to stand a certain way to tap it fast. But if I don't stand that certain way, I go like this. With my foot.
It was just so funny. Like she cracked me up. She made me laugh so hard I cried.
But I also do it randomly, and I think that's what gets people is I'm random. I literally did it. I was talking and I said, "Oh, I can't tap my foot on my left side. I can do it on my right though." And
it was just the moment. It was hilarious.
Do you think this was like a fragment of your authentic self sort of like slipping through the cracks?
Yeah.
Okay. So then here is my other question. Why do you feel like you need to hide your authentic self from your family?
I don't necessarily do it.
Well, but there is an aspect of you that is doing it. So there is an unconscious part of you that's saying, in order for me to remain safe, I have to put on this mask. Trust me, I've played that game. I had to be in the closet for quite a long time. So I know that, I know that unconscious masking of yourself, because you feel like you're going to be in danger if they see this version of me. You just said it yourself. If they see this version of me, then they'd be very disappointed. So you're sort of making an assumption because it may not be the truth.
I'm saying that because I know that they didn't raise me the way that I act at school.
Meaning what? Like, are you like, I'm just throwing things out there. Do you use more cuss words than you do in the house? Or are you just more?
I let it come out the other day in the house, and my mom was like, "You need to watch your mouth. You have a potty mouth."
Okay.
But I also, I don't know. It's weird. I talk differently.
Okay, so then here's my other question. That'll be one of the last big questions I'm gonna ask, because that's really gonna throw you for a loop. So are you ready? Do you feel like you're acting the way that you're acting in school because this is what's gonna bring you a stable friendship with people versus you being authentically yourself, which is the version of you that is actually in the house?
How do you talk so fast? You have like so many words that you need to get out in a certain, like, it's like you have like 1,000 words that you have to get out in one day. If you don't, it's gonna be like the world is gonna explode.
So I can say it again slower. Do you think
I understood it.
Okay.
But that was very fast. You sounded like you were singing opera for a second. I'll give that to you.
Okay.
So you're gonna answer the question.
Can you repeat that slower?
Okay. So do you believe that there is a possibility that the version of you that is at school is actually the version of you that is wearing a mask? Because that is what is currently solidifying friendships with people.
You and your questions.
Ooh. Okay.
I don't know. I'm gonna say I don't know for the
No,
whole
that's
next time
perfectly,
because
that's perfectly fair. But I feel like, again, I feel like it's food for thought, because I know what that desperation feels like.
Well, it's not that I'm desperate.
No,
it's
no, no. But
just-
like, let me, I'm not saying that you are desperate, but I know what that feeling, that yearning, let's call it yearning, because desperation has a negative connotation to it. So let's call it yearning. I know what that yearning feels like, to want to feel like you are part of a community, to want to feel like you are part of a friendship circle, to want to feel like, hey, I'm seen, I'm heard. But the version of you that is being seen and heard may not be the most authentic version of yourself.
But
So like, I went into my punk phase, even though I am the furthest thing from a punk. I would listen to the, the Evanescences and the Within Temptations and the All American Rejects and the Green Day and the spiky hair and the big metal balls I did all of that
So you kind of did
because
emo too.
the
Emo.
the emo phase. I did that because, again, the majority of the people that I was connecting to were those people.
yeah.
And the moment I felt like, oh my God, they get my vibe, like they get me, I can be a goofball and an idiot with these people, and it's okay and it's fine. And you know what? I'm just going to keep playing that up and playing that up and playing that up. But at the end of the day, I'm not an emo person. Like, I
cannot imagine that. You just surprised me with that.
I'm a unicorn. I am not an emo person.
That just blew
I mean,
me
I
away.
think
I
part of it
legitimately
also-
legitimately have a unicorn pin that says, I believe in myself. So I that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because I think it's it's going to leave you with something to sort of reflect on, is this version of myself, is this extreme version of myself the version that is truly me deep down?
That's part of the transformation.
Yeah, and that's part of the journey.
I think I'll have that answer
in 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Maybe when I'm like sitting on my couch watching Family Feud with an air tank and the thing that they put right here. Maybe that's when I'll figure out everything. But
I can just picture you going, oh my God.
I don't have a country accent. But I would say, oh my God.
Like, I got it. I just think that one of the most wise things that she said during this whole interview was on the topic of how, what's the word? Temporary everything is. So when I asked her about how she remains strong, and she said that she saw that video on TikTok, what she pulled out of it was that is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So she knew, like, the truth within her felt that, like, okay, this is temporary.
I think I was also scared that if I actually did kill myself, I think I would want to see where I'm at in a couple years.
That you would miss out on stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
good.
there's still life within you longing to be lived. Like, you were curious.
Yeah.
So what am I gonna miss? And that curiosity, didn't we talk about that a few episodes ago? About curiosity, be curious about yourself.
Be curious about the world. Be curious about yourself. Yeah, for sure. We did talk about that.
That curiosity.
I think it was from a Sri Kalishwar quote that sort of brought that up. That idea
Yeah,
of being curious.
Yeah, curiosity and the fact that she knew that truth, that what she was going through was temporary. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And it just, I think that's really, wise. I think that's wise, and I think that's fantastic. So, Karys, if there's like anything that you want to say, I want you to say it now. Like, as far as transformation, if you had somebody sitting in front of you right now that was going through bullying at school, what advice would you give that person?
To live your life. You're gonna experience hurt and you're gonna experience pain, but no matter what, that's gonna go away. And you're gonna feel it throughout your life. It's not gonna be, oh, I'm a teenager, like, this is what's going on, like, it's gonna go away in a couple years. No, it's not. It's gonna be there. I mean, I have to get rid of my dog, but in 3 years I'm gonna have a new dog. I'm having an older puppy, an older dog, like, I'm gonna go through pain, but I'm gonna get something out of it. I gotta get rid of my dog, but my parents say you're gonna get to pick out a new dog and things are gonna go right.
But we have, and we got that dog with the best of intentions.
Right.
We did.
Yeah.
The very best of intentions.
We thought we thought he was gonna be like, he's sweet. That's my baby. That's my big baby. I mean, I'm upset. He will literally sit on my stomach like a human and lick the tears off my face.
Yeah.
He's an amazing dog.
That's what Penny used to do.
He'll sit, or I'll say, come here, you want to cuddle? And he'll put his butt on the couch and wait for me to pull him up and he'll just lay with me, but
there comes a time when we have to look at what's best for the dog. And he is really big and he's really, really powerful. And keeping him inside our home is like a confinement to him. He's not free.
Yeah.
He's not free to run and he's not free to protect a house the way he needs to. He needs a few acres because he has a job to do. And we are keeping him from doing that job. So we, in living up to his highest potential, because his highest potential is not in alignment with the neighborhood that we're in right now.
Right.
He's doing a dog and he's doing dog things, but he's big and he's powerful and he's too powerful for us.
Right.
And he needs room to run. And he needs freedom. He needs independence. And living in our small house isn't giving him what he needs. And Karys was very wise about that last night. We were driving here and she found out that the dog literally lunged at another dog, threw her dad to the ground, and he hurt his knee. And it was just this big thing. And this is like the 4th time this has happened.
Right as he said that, I said he has to go.
Yeah, she knew it and she made that decision. And it's painful. It is painful. But she also knows that this is temporary.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings. It's a quote that sort of has been adapted multiple times, and whether it be in his books or whatever adaptations, visual adaptations that have come through. This shadow is but a passing thing. And it's sort of been expressed in moments where you feel like all hope is lost, right? But this shadow is but a passing thing. And it's that's what we constantly need to remind ourselves, is that this shadow is but a passing thing. And that things do get better. Things, the negative, the pain, the hurt, it is temporary. I do believe that I wouldn't necessarily fully agree that you're going to always carry that hurt, because there is a healing process, right? There is a healing process. The scar will be there. The lesson will be there, but it won't necessarily hurt in the same capacity.
Now, if you think about it, you're gonna have wounds. It's like a knife, like my scar on my hand when I put a knife through my hand on accident. That's like a wound, but it's healed. But if you think about trauma, it's a scab. It's literally, I think of it as a scab.
Okay.
A scab. And whenever you encounter something, the scab is going to open up and you're going to feel that hurt again, but the scab is going to heal. And it's not going to be 100% healed, because there's always going to be something that's going to trigger something in you. Like now, somebody, like one of my friends could talk to me wrong, and I'm over them, like I want to cry my heart out.
Right. And I think that's because you're still in the very early stages of that scab, right?
Yeah.
But
And so what do
if you are,
do for
and one of the
yourself?
things that I wanted, sorry, Allison, go ahead.
And so when that scab, like, okay, so that time, like, she didn't put a knife through her hand.
No.
She cut her hand. So like, if that scab were to open up, you would have to take care of it, right? So if somebody says something to trigger you, what do you do to take care of yourself to make sure that that wound closes again?
I learned how to communicate, because I'm very afraid of communication for some reason. So I've learned how to communicate. And I think communication, definitely, if you want like a long lasting friendship, communication is definitely something that you need to learn, because like communication.
That's so funny that this happened.
This application.
It's hilarious. And what did you do?
How did two thumbs up turn into fireworks? Like, why are there fireworks is what I want to understand. How does that translate to two thumbs up? Like, does a one thumb up, does that do something? It does nothing. Oh, yes, it does.
Yes,
oh, wow, look at that.
That is great. But I think that deserves, I mean, here we have a 15-year-old talking about how important communication is, you know, and here's, of course, there are fireworks that, because when I was 15 and somebody said to me, learn how to communicate, I would have been like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I would have been like, what's the point? Nobody listens to me anyway. That would have been me.
But I like the way that you said that.
Communication just helps out a lot. It does.
And your fear of communication is normal. A lot of people fear communication because, again, the aspect of us that fears communication is afraid of what the response might be. So there's that expectation of what the response of me communicating is going to be. But once we learn that when we communicate, we're doing that for us and not for the other person, all that fear just like dissipates. Because it's no longer about what the other person says. My job is to communicate to you what I need to tell you. How you receive it, how you react, that's your responsibility and not mine.
There's always going to be what I've learned is if you do something wrong, the other person's going to react in a negative, positive, semi-negative, or semi-positive way. And no matter what those reactions are, there's always going to be a negative to it.
Okay.
So it's always going to be, you apologize for your wrongdoing. Don't beg the other person to apologize for their wrongdoing. wait until they do it. Because if they're not going to apologize for either being immature, reacting, yelling, cussing you out, anything, what was the point in even communicating if you're not going to own up to what you did?
So what you're saying is people need to, communication is owning up to what you've done and taking
Being
responsibility.
responsible. Yeah.
Communication could be literally I could say, Mom, I need soap from the store, and I don't communicate, and I get mad at her, and she's like, why are you mad at me? You didn't specify what soap you wanted. How was I supposed to know? You know, I feel like people, when they say they need something or they want something, and somebody's like, okay, but he or she didn't specify what they actually wanted, so I'm gonna get something that I think they're gonna like. You know, it's always.
So what you're saying is, in order to get your desired result, you need to be
specific.
specific.
I feel like you have to be straightforward. I'm gonna say what Sydney's boyfriend said. You have to put your foot down.
Mm-hmm.
If you want something really bad, you have to first you have to communicate. You have to specify, and you have to make sure that this person understands, this is what I want. I don't want any of that. This is what I want.
I'm so proud of her.
And that goes for everything. That could literally be, Alan comes to Florida, I'm going to Chick-fil-A, I'm gonna get you a cheeseburger. I don't want a cheeseburger. He gets me a salad and I get mad at him. I didn't specify. You know, it's literally that.
I mean, I don't know where you have it in your mind that you have any right to get mad at me for anything. I don't. That's just like, excuse me.
I can get mad at you. I can get mad at you for
the shade though. Like, what?
Yeah, you would probably be like, why? What did I do to you? I didn't do anything. I'm literally buying you food. Be grateful that I'm putting food in front of your face. Eat it now.
But I think that's very important. And that's that's a lesson that I had to learn like later in life, is communicating my needs.
My Lord.
Like, again, what are my needs right now? And what do I want? And how is it that I'm going to get to it?
Like, even with 5 years,
she is 15 talking about that.
Even with 5 years of therapy, there are days where I'm just like, and it'll be something like really ridiculous. Like, I'll need something from the grocery store or something like whatever. And rather than just go out and ask Kay to go to the grocery store and do it, I will beat myself up, be down in the dumps, because I said that I would like a soda, like, oh, I wish we had soda. And somehow me saying, I wish we had soda, Kay was supposed to put all of that algebraic formula in his mind and understand that I need him to go get me a soda from the grocery store. That is the most ridiculous thing in the world, because that's an expectation you're putting on a human being who is a human being and not a, X-Men with telekinetic or like psychic powers that's able to sort of like tap into your mind. Like, if you wanted me to do to vacuum the house, why didn't you just ask me to vacuum the house? Like, why do you need to go into throw a hissy fit instead of doing that? And unfortunately, this sort of goes back to something that I said earlier. That's the way that it was done in my house growing up. It was just like this expectation that was sort of put on everybody, and we never signed a memo. And it's like, and so it becomes a little complicated when you try to unlearn all of these things and understand that the fact that you're scared to communicate is all in your head. Nothing is scary about communicating. What's scary is the scenario that your mind creates, the movie, the apocalypse that your mind creates, in your mind. And all it takes is you saying, hey, like, this is what I'm sort of feeling. This is what I want. Like, this is what I need. Like, can I have a hug? Like, that's it. All it takes is just as Karys said, as wisely, is communication. Like that's all it takes, is for you to sort of like speak your truth, as we have constantly said on our show. Take responsibility, speak the truth.
I was gonna sneeze. I'm sorry. I was gonna sneeze.
It's okay. Take responsibility, speak your truth, embrace and endure the churn, because once the churn is done, the blessings come through. And that's essentially, again, Vistara Hour magic. Somehow this entire journey.
I mean, if you think
to-
about it, if you also communicate, you can really create relationships, because then you also add trust, and you add a lot. People will know boundaries if you communicate with them and what to do and what not to do next time. I think people need to understand that communication is definitely something that can help.
And
Allison, I think
that...
I think you and I have just been dethroned as the hosts of the Vistara Hour.
Yeah.
I don't think we
I mean, talk about transformation, right? I don't think she would have had the wherewithal to say all of this 2 years ago, as we were sitting, in the same location in front of the
Literally
same ocean.
playing Uno and you have to act out acts.
We were doing Uno Dare.
You have to
2 years ago.
dance.
I had to
fun.
dance.
Everything. I don't even.
Yeah, we had some funny times 2 years ago, but like, see this transformation. I know it took a little while with this episode to see it, but it's just kind of like coming together.
Mhm.
Like Karys's pearls of wisdom here, communication.
We need to have
That's
a
huge.
godfather and goddaughter podcast. And we talk about whatever we want, whenever we want.
Darling, at this point in my life, I can barely keep up with this podcast. So adding another,
When you're able to.
But
adding,
I
but
love
it would be
that,
an
like,
honor to sit and chit chat. Do like a godfather goddaughter podcast. That sounds like a trip.
that'd be fun.
It sounds like a trip.
But yeah, that came out of me asking her how she's going to take care of herself.
Yeah.
When that wound gets reopened. And I think that's like big. That's amazing.
Huge.
Communication. I'm going to communicate my needs.
Don't assume and don't think people are always going to know what you want, because they're never going to know until you say something. Even the slightest, oh, you didn't do this, but I wanted this to happen. You didn't do it, but I wanted it to happen. You could say something like that.
Well, then whose fault is it if somebody did something that you wanted them to do, but you didn't express it?
My fault. It's always going to be your fault.
Take
If you don't
responsibility.
communicate, you have to.
Taking responsibility. But yeah, the fact that everything is temporary, communication. What was the other one?
Communication, everything is temporary. Set your boundaries, put your foot down, speak your truth.
Yes.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
All that good
Like
stuff.
that's
Amazing. I mean, yeah.
We're talking about transformation here.
I mean, hey, I got to write about my incident that happened in 8th grade for my creative writing piece. I got
Oh, you're taking a creative writing course? I cannot wait to
I hate it. It honestly,
on that note, we are going to close off this episode because my feelings have just been hurt.
But yeah, that's like, okay, so remember the last episode we were talking about how my favorite character in Hindu mythology is Hanuman, because Hanuman had to go rescue Sita to give Sita back to Rama.
Right.
And what they ended up doing is they lit his tail on fire to try to get rid of him.
Right.
But he didn't succumb to that. It was hard and it was painful.
Yes.
But he took that tail and he lit the village on fire so he could rescue Sita.
Right.
So he turned his tail into a power object.
Into a weapon.
Powerful. And I feel like that's what's happening here.
Yes.
I mean, look how much growth has occurred in a matter of 2 years. Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah.
Can I help you?
Aww. And on that beautiful note,
Is there, before you end, I want to ask her because I don't want to hear you two talk too much.
Right. Yes.
So
Yes.
is there
Do you feel like
else?
we gave you enough space to express what you needed to express?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to say?
Just believe in yourself.
Just believe in yourself. And there the heart. It's magic.
And on that beautiful note, then, my dear listeners, this is, as I mentioned earlier on in this episode, this is our mid-season finale. It's our mid-season break. So what I would love for you to do is to make sure that you are following us on all of our social media, on YouTube, on Instagram. And you could also check out our website, www.thevistarahour.com. You can send us an email at the vistarahour@gmail.com. You can reach out to us. If you're listening to us on Apple or any of the podcast platforms where you can give us a rating would be very, very appreciated. It'll help us reach more and more listeners. So before Allison closes off the show for our mid-season finale, I want to wish everybody out there listening happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we're sending you all so many blessings from the Vistara Hour. Allison, the floor is yours?
Yes.
Okay.
May all beings be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all.
Blessings, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We'll see you in 2024 for
Namaste.
season 2, part 2. Take care.
Yes.
Ooh, wait.
BHAVANTU. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om LOKAH SAMASTAH, SUKHINO BHAVANTU. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om LOKAH SAMASTAH, SUKHINO BHAVANTU. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.